Good morning. Take two of hashtag Wisdom Weaver with Velva Dawn. So I will be bringing on my guest, Natasha Mott. She is an amazing healer, intuitive. She does a lot of work with the Akashic Records, and we're going to be having a very real and raw conversation about, what she's doing in these times, what work she's bringing through, and we're just going to have a general conversation. So until she comes on and joins us, I want to share a little perspective with all of you who are joining me here today. So we've had a lot of adjustment over the last 2 years, and I just recently got back from Kailua Kona in Hawaii, and it was amazing. That trip really allowed me to remember, that we can move through fear. We can move through those things. Good morning, Tony, in our lives that, maybe we thought we'd forgotten about. We forgot our own power. We truly forgot to be in that space. Good morning, Maureen, where we have engaged our power. So I guess my tip for this week is, if you're feeling powerless, if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling all those things. Maureen says, hello, Velva Dawn, you're glowing. Yeah, it's that Hawaii sunshine and the ocean and all of that. Thank you. Thanks, Maureen. It's good to see you here. Hope things are well with you. So is just remember that, if you're meeting resistance at all in your life in any area, whether it's a certain thought that you're having or if it's a relationship, that you're resisting, those are areas in your life that you want to really lean into the resistance. You want to look at, why are you afraid? Why are you resisting, that certain, fear or that person or that experience? Because usually it has something to teach you. That's why you're resisting it. Okay, I'm going to bring on Natasha. Where is she? Here we go. Okay, I'm just going to bring her on here. Okay. Okay, Natasha, I just need you to send that again, that you want to be on the video. I can't see it anymore. So I'm going to go back to that. I want you to really look at, where do you have resistance in your life? And I have to be honest with you, I was afraid to travel. And the reason that I was afraid to travel is I used to travel to Hawaii all the time. I knew the shortest duration of flights. I knew the best airports that I like to, travel through. And all of that was sort of removed. It was lifted. And I'd forgot about the joy of travel. I'd forgotten, what it feels like to, have a different, fresh view. And if you've ever been to any of the Hawaiian Islands, you'll know that they're magical. They're truly magical. The ocean brings such a reset, a clarity, and it allows you to sink into, a new vision, which is really, really important for many of us, is we've forgotten that we can create movement in our life. So that is my tip for this hashtag Wisdom Wednesday, is look at the areas that you have resistance in your life. I think we all have resistance to doing our income tax, right? And maybe some don't, but I'm talking about the resistance to really making yourself maybe a healthier person. Maybe you've been feeling guided to actually change the locations of where you're living. Maybe there's friendships or relationships that you feel you need to sort of move to the side, but you're resisting because you're afraid, of what comes forward. And when we have that resistance or that fear, it's really, the universe showing us that there's something greater for us. And we just need to step into it and move through it. Because once you actually make the decision to step into the resistance and you put one, foot in front of the other, you'll find that the universe is actually going to support you. And you'll be surprised. But it's just that pivotal point of moving through that. Okay, I'm still trying to bring Natasha on here. This is just not working so well here. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, Maureen says, on October 18th, I took my dream job. 3 weeks later, resigned. Toxic 3-hour commute and 6 figures, doesn't grant a company. Yes, taking a break and thinking about part-time, focus on me, had breast cancer scare, and it was a wake up. Oh, honey, I'm sorry that you had that. Yes, I mean, that is definitely, I sent the invite already, Natasha. So I can't resend it on this live. I just tried. It says it's already been sent. So here, oh, wait, here we go. I think I got it. No, I didn't. Okay, so this is what we like about technology. Good morning, Carla. It's nice to see you here joining us. We're just patiently waiting for Natasha. Once I see that you're watching, I actually can add you. Okay, so I just have to, okay, here's your thing. All right, I'm adding you now. It goes really well or it doesn't. So you just kind of learn to go with the flow.
Hello.
There you are. There you are. And we can hear you.
Can you
This
hear
is
me?
good. Yes, we can. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. So thank you everyone for your patience. It takes a while sometimes for us to figure these things out. So this is my beautiful friend and guest, Natasha Mott. So do you want to share with everybody here on #WisdomWeaver a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited and I'm glad we overcame the technology on getting on here. Yeah, absolutely. So I was very fortunate to be born into a family that's very much into spirituality and looking at the metaphysical side of life. And I remember that my mom used to send me to Sunday school so that I could be normal in some way. But it was kind of like more of kind of like getting some sort of an instruction as to, you know, philosophies on life and all the rest of that. And I never thought that I could actually do it as an occupation. And even back then, in those days, like 30 years ago, it wasn't something that we actually spoke about, right? It was just one of those things that was kept quiet. And yeah, I jumped into the corporate life. I was born in South Africa, in case some of you are wondering what the dodgy accent is about. And I ended up living in Edinburgh for a very, very long time. And I had a very, very corporate kind of career, actually in technology, which is quite interesting because a lot of us in the spiritual realm have connected to technology in some way or another. And yeah, I met my husband, who's Canadian. And at that time that I was in Edinburgh, because it was in my early 20s, I was traveling and discovering the world. And I've always loved cultures and why people do certain things and different beliefs. And I didn't really want a conscious, so I kind of like hit the snooze button on the spirituality in that sense. But and not only that, I didn't have the family support. So I was completely open in a country where many battles have been fought. So you can imagine there's a lot of unseen things walking around and, you know, all the rest of that. So I was like, no, I just didn't want to do it. And I ended up meeting my husband, who's Canadian, and we moved over here not too long, well, not too long ago, it's almost 9 years now. And a very, very interesting aspect of moving over here is being so close to Lake Louise and this portal. It reignited stepping into that spiritual side again. And I hit the space where I couldn't be in corporate anymore and started looking at clearing myself. And that was one of the first things that I thought. I'm like, okay, I'm blocked energetically, something needs to shift. And Portuguese being my first language and all the spiritual instruction in Portuguese, I was like, man, we used to do hands-on healing all the time. So I Googled hands-on healing and up popped Reiki. And I was like, oh, must be called Reiki in English. So off I went and I did the levels of Reiki and started to shift things. And then Akashic Records fell into my lap. And it was amazing in the sense that it started reigniting that conscious intuition of really seeking that information. And I've always been a person that if you tell me why something is, it makes sense to me, I will go with it. But if you tell me, like my poor parents, they were like, if you can't do this, and they wouldn't tell me why, I would instantly rebel against it, right? So it was kind of like the Akashic Records was that activation that one helped me step back into my intuition, my spirituality, but it gave me the answers why. why am I going through this? You know, why did I move? Why this house? You know, why is this so difficult? Why did I have that bully in my life? And it's amazing because the information that I started receiving was incredible in the sense that it wasn't judgmental. It was just, this is what it is. And it made sense to me. And then I had somebody said, oh, you should do this for people. And I said, no way. And they were like, no, you should help others. And then I started stepping into that journey of helping others. And I used the Akashic Records as my main modality. I also did craniosacral therapy, which helped us to go deeper into our physical system, but also working with the nervous system, which for me connects to everything else as well. So yeah, and here I am now. I have a practice, I have a school as well where I can share the information with people, and just on this journey for myself and helping others through it as well, just giving them the tools to be able to face, to get the reasons why, and you know what we can do in moving forward. With a conscious decision to really live in our highest expression of who we are. Because the Akashic Records, every reality is possible based on any decision that you make right now. So it's looking at what are the highest expressions, what are the best realities that we're trying to create, and then moving forward into that direction.
And, you know, I think it's so important right now. You know, it's exactly what people are seeking. Now they're really questioning, they're looking, they're like, you know, there's more to this, there's more to life, you know, and people are looking inside more, I find now more than ever. So I feel like your work is vital right now more than, you know, it's like you've been, you know, getting ready for this big step into helping and to being of service as much as you can. And, you know, I personally have seen Natasha myself, and she's amazing. Like, she truly is an amazing healer. She has an amazing gift to really guide you and help you. So tell us a little bit about, there's one question I want to ask you before we get into, because it's something that I feel I always want to make this interview process helpful for everyone, whether they're spiritual or they're, you know, just listening because they're one of my friends. What have you found the most helpful yourself over the last 2 years to allow yourself to still remain in peace inside?
Okay. So that's an amazing question, because when we first started connecting with what was happening with COVID, I checked into the records, like, why are we going through this, right? Why have we as a collective chosen this? Because if we start looking at whenever there's like big wars and all things like that, it really is a way for us to shift into a different way of being, right? The United Nations came out of a war where we started really uniting together. And what I received the message at the beginning of this was, this is for us to go within. This is for us to start, you know, really stop the busy, right? Stop, you know, going outside of ourselves to find the answers, to distract ourselves from what we're hiding or shoving under the carpet internally. And it was also an opportunity to look at, what does my ideal life look like? Where is that work-life balance that, you know, we're so craving, you know, that we so want to change? And it was also a kind of like, it was a time of self-reflection. Absolutely. And the amazing thing is that it forced us to go deeper. And for us practitioners, it actually forced us to put our money where our mouth was, to actually rely on the tools that we share with other people. So it's, you know, it's about, okay, what am I feeling right now? Allowing it to move through and shift through what we're going through, right? And release it. That's the important thing, because even though I'm generally quite positive, we all need to feel the 50 shades of all the emotions that are human. It's what makes us human. but it was going through all of that and that understanding, okay, why? So I went deeper into meditation, I went deeper into self-care, and I went deeper into being of service. How can I support others? How can I help others? How can I help myself, and how can I help others? Which was so interesting because it brought me back to the beginning of the spiritual journey on another level. So I was at that place, okay, what do we do now? And it always starts with self. If we want to change the world, we have to start with ourselves. So I really did start going in, and I started trying to support people. A lot of what came up for me in the Akashic is purpose. What is my purpose? Because now we were left at the space of life doesn't look like it used to. So what is my purpose, and how can I step into it? And we're still in this phase. Absolutely. And the amazing thing is those that started asking those questions, started seeking and started opening up. And that's where we were able to support others. And we know as practitioners that people, when they come to see us, the session is about us as well. So those themes that come in is because we're facing those as well. So going deeper into that with, you know, my students, with my clients, and really set into that self-reflection. Okay, this is what's going on. How can I shift through this? And I started noticing that I started shifting through things a little bit faster because I didn't hold on to them. So the last few years, it's that surrendering aspect that came in, which was the next step. Because, you know, when we leave a corporate world, we're so used to kind of like action, reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction. Whereas when we start shifting into this world, we really start moving into a space of co-creation, which is kind of like, so at the beginning, and this is so funny, I used to be like, okay, I've meditated all week, I've cleared all my chakras, where's the result, right? But the result wasn't external, it was internal when I first reconnected with that. So knowing that, it was kind of like, I learned to really become sit into a place of now, into a space of receiving, but being agile enough to move with what is being, you know, given to me. So it was that agility, that fluidity, that space of surrender, but in a space of waiting to see what comes in, and looking at those opportunities. And where I had to become really, really careful of is really, what media was I looking into? What was I fueling? Okay, because there was a lot that was on, like, you know, on the TV, on the radio, on, I actually had to stop all of that and really just kind of like go within. And the interesting thing as well that started coming through, it helped me step into another space of non-judgment, because stepping into that unity, we are all one. So, and knowing that anybody that I am connected with is another reflection of me. So whatever I'm feeling, whatever is being brought up, whether it's admiration, appreciation, or whether it's kind of like fear or, oh my goodness, you know, worry, whatever it may be, it's kind of like, this is a reflection of me, really, more than anything. And that's how I started kind of like, okay, this is interesting, seeing things from a space of curiosity rather than doom and gloom, you know. So like, for example, my first client that came in that was vaccinated, I was like, okay, what does it look like? What does it do? Oh, I'm interested. Let's spit in that space of neutral to see, okay, how can I best be of service to this person and what is coming in? So it's really stepping into curiosity, really stepping into that, oh, that's interesting, you know, aspects. And that's what I've been doing the last couple of years, because even though there's a lot of people that are starting to awaken, those of us that are awakened, we're stepping into another phase of our own awakening. So everybody's going through this, right? So, and that was interesting, being back in that space of, oh, okay, another layer needs to be peeled off, right? Yeah.
I know, and it's, you know, I so relate to when you say you're moving through things faster, right? It's because if you've already been doing that, you know, and you're awake, you will move through faster. And then it's like, your lens shifts and you see it and you're like, oh, cool, because it's like it's right there. And that is the internal gift, is, you know, it's right there and it's different, and you know it's different. And you just smile to yourself because you think, you know, I see.
Absolutely. And the amazing thing is we stop holding that judgment, right? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay, it is what it is. How can I change moving forward? And it's not about beating ourselves up for what we've been doing in the past, but it's kind of like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I recognize this. How do I change this next moment? How do I change tomorrow so that I shift that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you're right. It's like, where do I direct my energy, right? Do I direct it to support, the judgment that I have, or do I direct it to look internally to go to that void of 0 point neutrality and sit in it? And like you said, it's like a view with curiosity, because there's always going to be different views. One's not right, one's not wrong, but it's sinking into that middle point, right? Which is such a finely tuned instrument.
Absolutely. And I'm so fortunate to see, I have a lot of clients that have coming to see me that are, nurses, that are doctors, that
Yes.
are educators. And the amazing thing is that the way things are shifting is we're restructuring all of this so that it works for us in this new, more conscious way of being. So it's kind of like, I have a lot of nurses that are like, okay, so we're, if I'm to open a private practice, I'm going to include natural therapies in that because that's what's missing in our system. And that really
Mm-hmm.
excites me about the next phase that we're stepping into. And it's not only medical,
Mm-hmm.
it's education, it's finance. All these areas are shifting to
Yes.
bring into more balance. And this is where your work is so important, is because we're stepping into the divine feminine aspect and
Mm-hmm.
bringing that balance of divine feminine and divine masculine, where they start to work more cohesively, more interchangeably, more when we need it. And what's been missing is the divine feminine. And this is starting to weave its way through, because we've known that there, even though the structures that were here
Mm-hmm.
before worked, it's not necessarily how we want to moving forward. So those
Mm-hmm.
threads of energy are starting to move into that. And even if we look at the corporate world, where our bosses are looking at like, how many days do you want to work at home? How many days do you want to be in the office? Looking at
Yeah.
that work-life balance, which is bringing that balance into state. So we cannot go back to where we were, because where we were was not working. And it excites me because
Mm-hmm.
where we're going is going to be absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. I so agree with you. Everyone, I hear people say to me, I can't wait until life gets back to normal. I'm like, it's not going back. We're not going backwards. It's never
No,
healthy to go backwards. Don't look over your shoulder. Focus forward, because it's going to be amazing, but it's a different curiosity. It's a different lens. It's a different way of being. Growth always, propels that. Okay. That is so good, Natasha. So good. Okay, so I know there's people on here who don't know anything about the Akashic Records. Do you want to share a little bit about, what that is?
absolutely. So the Akashic Records, I like to call it, just to bring it into, I like to call it the Google of the spiritual world, the search engine of the spiritual world. It is so much more than that.
Mm,
It hosts all the information that has ever been, is, and ever will be. Okay. But the amazing thing that it hosts is the information of who you are, why you are here. It hosts your soul's blueprint. And it was so amazing, because I was part of my conscious community. I bring in guests, and I brought in this amazing astrologer, and she works on the blueprint before the blueprint. But the Akashic Records even works before that. It works on
mm,
the, how am I going to create the blueprint that then adds on the blueprint of astrology and everything else. Now, the Akashic Records is not is it's amazing in a way, and how it helps us is that it gives us background information to base our decisions on moving forward. And where it's a little bit different is when we're looking at certain decisions in our life or certain pathways, all these realities exist based on the very decision that you make. And every time we make a decision, a whole plethora of opportunities shows up for us. So we can look into all of these threads, because time doesn't really exist, but we're going through all of these possibilities are available to us. But where they also tend to help is if we were to consider past lives, for example, a lot of the past lives that tend to show up in the sessions are kind of like interlinked and influencing this lifetime. And the Akashic Records really creates a thread to these past lives, but it also creates all these threads or these tethers to the contracts, deals, agreements that we make with people. So for example, this interview, this session has already been created even before we were born, based on the decisions and the algorithms of what we're going to, to get to, that will bring us to this point where we will really, help bring this information to the people that are listening and will listen, because it will help them in a certain way. So all of this is absolutely already written. And it's really looking into what has my soul, what is the pathway, what is the journey that my soul has created for this specific lifetime. And the Akashic Records is really, it's not something you go to. It's something that you are, that you embody. And the Akashic Records is really, the matrix is another word for the Akashic Records. But the Akashic Records is really the element of creation. It is the fiber of creation. And all the elements are based on top of that. And we speak about the Akashic Record sometime as the first dimension, which is all that exists, all that is. And the reason we incarnate is to experience that. So could you imagine sitting in a library that has all these books that have ever been written, are written, will be written, all these programs, everything, but not experiencing that? And that's why we incarnate, to experience what we know. And the Akashic Records really just highlights that. But we are a living, breathing version of the Akashic Records. We just need to tap into it. And I tap into it through a form of meditation. There's mantras. I find it's an extremely valuable tool because it brings the unconscious or the subconscious to the conscious level. So it works on very multi-dimensions, but the easiest, simplest way of putting it is it's really the Google of the spiritual world. And if you were to Google yourself, you're really just, connecting to your own soul's blueprint, your own plan for this journey, this adventure of this incarnation. So I hope that makes sense, because there's so many ways that we can look at it, but it really is the blueprint of your soul and the blueprint of everything. And now that's the other thing that is fascinating, is everything has an Akashic record, from crystals to plants. And I think that a lot of, when I was like, how do people discover, what foods and what medicines are good for us, right? They're tapping into the Akashic Records and they're pulling that information from the subconscious into the conscious level.
I love that. I love exactly what you just said. It's the Google, right, of yourself, right? Which is true. It is pivotal as to what I know true, working with the divine feminine myself, is we've got to look internal. Everything that we need is already inside. It's about remembering, accessing, igniting, and, going with the flow. So it's time. It is truly time. So thank you for that. I think that'll be really powerful for everyone who's wondering or is sort of opening the door a little. And it's like, what are they talking about? What does this mean? So why don't you share? You had mentioned to me that you have some exciting, things that you are doing with your courses in the Akashic Records. What's new for you? What's coming up?
So what's coming up is very interesting. There's a few. I've been asked to be doing mentorships for a long time. So I've been teaching and I've been recording a lot of the courses because a lot of people enjoy doing the self-paced course. And some people need that in-person kind of like, I need to see you. So what I have coming up next year, and I actually haven't even shared it with any of my groups, so this is the first time I'm actually mentioning it public, is I'm going to start working on a mentorship of the Akashic Records, but a 12-week mastermind. So with these courses of like, how do you connect to your own soul's blueprint? It's going to take, and it takes people through that healing process, because we're looking at how do we heal in the Akashic Records, because we're multidimensional beings. This is what is missing, is, you know, really healing on all dimensions of who we are. So we start looking at that, and then what I've added in to go even deeper into our healing is working with the ancestors, working with our bloodlines, working with, you know, that looking at why we chose these certain, why we chose our parents, why we activated certain genes within that lineage. What have we come to over, you know, what traumas have we come to release? What patterns have we come to overcome? And it's a 12-week mastermind that I'll take people through that, and then finding their passion and their purpose. So and by the end of it, they could be practitioners or add that into their to their practice. It just gives another layer of actually stepping in and helping others. So that's a 12-week kind of Akashic Mastermind for healing that is going to be launched next year. And then the other thing that I'm doing is a 12-week one-on-one, completely tailored program that will help to release all the anchors that are keeping us stuck, that will help us to expand into our highest expression of who we are. We have so many avenues that we could go down, but let's release all the anchors so that we can really step into our highest expression and step into our purpose of who we are. And I started looking at all areas of our lives. So it's not just tackling, okay, career, but it's also tackling kind of like, you know, what do you want to work on? Relationships? Do you want to work on, you know, just yourself? Is it healing? And I use various techniques depending on what people want, whether it's past life regressions, whether it's somato emotional release, like what are we holding from our childhood? What are we holding from our past lives that aren't in alignment? So clearings, but it's completely tailored to the person. So I've just really grabbed all of my skills, and it is really a journey of releasing anchors and stepping into the highest expression of who we are. Because sometimes we don't even know that we're not even living our highest expression because we're living in our comfort zone, right? So it's really kind of like, let's release the anchors so that we can expand and be who we are and be of service. So I'm really stepping in further into being of service completely. And those are the new things that are coming up. And then the other thing, because I have I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and a lot of youngsters are starting to reconnect with crystals, and they're starting to connect with magic. And I want to be able to support them in the sense of giving them knowledge and wisdom on how to navigate that, because start working with magic, we're opening up portals, we're not understanding. Let's look at like how we can work with this in a safe environment, in an environment that we're knowledgeable. So really helping to support the youth that are, you know, really starting to get interested in this. And they're just, like you say, just remembering what they already know, right? So it's okay, let me remind you of what you already know. And that's all my courses, absolutely. So those are the big things that I have coming next year. So I'm super excited about those programs, because I feel that it will help so many, especially when we're working with our ancestors. Because not only when we heal ourselves, we heal 7 generations before, 7 generations to come. But if we bring in the ancestors, that's so many generations, and it's efficient, it's fast, it helps the people that are here. So, you know, your siblings as well as the generations to come. So I'm super excited about that.
I'm super excited that you're doing that too. I did a program very similar to what you're doing. So it just makes me smile, because I think we're being called, you know, as healers, that we got to step it up, and people want individual depth, right? So I think that's really, really important. It's important work. And so with the children, I too have had a lot of, you know, younger girls, especially, who the kids are really struggling right now. You know, they're really having a hard time weaving through this, and they need the support more than ever.
And it's
So,
supporting those parents because
okay, this is,
sorry. Yeah, I've had a lot of parents that don't know much about this world,
no,
but
no.
their kids are getting into it and they're like, I don't know how to support them safely navigate this. So yeah, it's absolutely, you're absolutely right. It is important at the moment.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. Um, okay, I want to ask you, um, the other thing you mentioned, I want to talk about a little bit, Lake Louise. Okay, not everybody knows about the portal, about the energy. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lake Louise's portal is really one of the okay, so the earth has chakras in their own, okay? So I believe that Lake Louise is a chakra of this planet. And this portal is really governed by
Mhm.
Archangel Michael. Um, so there's a lot of strength within this. And when I go to Lake Louise, and the thing is, even in Calgary, we can feel it because it's a massive portal. Okay. If we look at Archangel Michael is about release, letting go of tethers. It's about protection and it's about activating will. Right? So when I'm out there, the vibrational frequency is incredible and the water of Lake Louise is incredible as well.
Mhm.
So whenever we're there, there's a lot of portals are either releasing or bringing things, you know, or clearing things in a different way or bringing things up for you. So Lake Louise is extremely important. And I think that when people come to visit, just that vibrational shift brings us into that, okay, what are you moving into next, right? Which is incredible. And it's interesting because it's also very masculine in that sense, but it's quite balanced. And I was just recently in Glastonbury, and Glastonbury is the heart chakra portal of the world as well.
Mhm.
So you could feel the vibrational differences between the two, but both extremely powerful. So I know a lot of people take their crystals out there and actually clear them and activate them at Lake
Mhm.
Louise, but it's I've had a few journeys out there, and just walking past the lake and then just meditating. I've seen some massive beings that really support the energy out there as well. So it's very, very, it's a special place for me for sure. Um, and a lot of people come to visit it, but it is just another special place of the earth here, vibrational frequencies
Mhm.
that we can connect to while we're there.
Mhm. 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 Thank you for sharing that. Um, it's important to understand that sacred sites do affect your physical vibration at the same time. So we have a few minutes left. What what else do you do besides your upcoming courses? Maybe if you want to share a little bit about, what else do you do? How else are you helping the collective in your service?
Okay, absolutely. So I do private sessions. I also do craniosacral therapy as well, which is great. Private sessions are great in the sense that I usually tell people to think of all the questions that they want to ask me, and we try and go through them. And you'll note that a lot of information comes through really, really quickly, which is great. So, to get the most out of their sessions. I also do a clearing. And when I do a clearing, I do it on all levels as well. So it kind of like tidy up the records, releasing cords, tethers, attachments to things that aren't in alignment anymore. I close off contracts, deals, and agreements, vows, all sorts of things that could be influencing this lifetime that aren't allowing you to step into your highest expression. And then I teach. And the interesting thing is, I thought I was done teaching Reiki. But my guides were like, no, it is needed now more than ever because we need that support on a multidimensional level. And Reiki is such an amazing modality to help people move into the space of spirituality and getting to know themselves and clearing on a multidimensional way. So I've started teaching that in person, but I do have a lot of the digital curriculum is there so people get it, and take it as they want. But what I've started doing to really help the collective is I've created a YouTube channel, and there's every 2 weeks I do a live Reiki healing, and I've been adding them on. So yeah, there's a few that are up on my YouTube channel, which is releasing toxins. I just put one up today with regards to dissolving stress, anxiety, worry, you know. So really looking at supporting what are people going through at the moment. And one of the scariest things was in one of the medical detox ones, I had somebody say to me, you know, I did it 4 days in a row, and you know, my eye started to water, and the next day I released a blood clot from my nose. And I was like, wow, that is extremely powerful, because it's not only me that's doing it, but I sometimes have practitioners that join in and they support the healing as well. So it's not just me, and they're extremely powerful. And then one of my purposes here is to help people to connect to their Akashic records. So there's a series of meditations where I'll take people through the Akashic records, ask a question, journal the answer, and then I'll bring you safely out of the Akashic records as well. And that's how I've been supporting the collective on a grander scale, just to get out there and really be of service to people as well. And then I run drop-in meditations every second Wednesday, and tonight's one of them. I'm actually looking, I got guided, the goddesses are so important, like they're just here at the moment. I mean, your work will be, it has always been important, but now is really starting to activate in a different level, because all the goddesses have started to come in. So tonight's meditation is actually related on goddess activations. But yeah, so quite busy in the sense of really helping people to connect to themselves and get to know themselves better and help them to shift through these times at the moment. So there's a lot of complementary stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that I do as well in the space of sharing information through teaching.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. It's just so multifaceted, right? What you're doing, what you're offering, and who you are, right? Which is truly divine. So can you, just before we wrap up, share where people can find you on social media, your website, and just let everybody know?
Absolutely. So for the educational side of things, it's called Raising the Vibe. So www.raisingthevibes.com, and that you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And then for my appointments, I have the Natasha Mott. So it's just my name, you know, www.natashamott.com. And then there's a booking site over there as well. So yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube right now. Just to help support everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate for you allowing me to share all of this and to share my gifts and be of service even further to a lot of people. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. It's been my pleasure. I just really listen to the universe, you know, who do I need to talk to next, and how can we weave this world together with the light? So thank you, Natasha, for being here and for all that you're doing. And for those of you that are listening, you know, she mentioned where you can find her. Do find her. I highly recommend her and her work. And I think it's time. So thank you so much,
Thank you.
Natasha.
Thank you. Have a
You're
wonderful
welcome.
rest of your
Bye,
week.
everybody.
And yeah.
Have a good.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And this will be up on YouTube, so you can listen later and listen as many times as you want. There was a lot of valuable information here that Natasha shared. So truly have an amazing week, everyone. Goodbye.